This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1867. Eat me, jackass.
Nobody's going to know what that means. So you got to listen to the episode to hear it.
Man's going to have a heart attack.
Aren't you going to New York Comic Con this weekend?
Yeah, I'm heading up for...
Wait, you are?
Well, a bit on Saturday morning.
Oh.
Our friends who ran the late lamented London Super Comic Convention are going to be in town. I haven't seen them in years, so I'm going to catch up with them Saturday morning, then go to the con for a little while on Saturday. I don't have anything specific in mind, just people who are going to be there. I want to catch up with, haven't seen in a while. You know, look at the art dealers, of course, but I don't want to spend too much time there because I see today, we're recording this the first day of the New York Comic Con, that they're not really enforcing the mask policy. So there's a lot of maskless people walking around that convention. Now, I've got all my shots and everything, but I still feel, even when there wasn't a pandemic, I felt a little overwhelmed at the New York Comic Con last time I went there. So just a quick visit, see a few people, maybe try to get some art, and then just, get home.
I was just kidding. I thought maybe I didn't think you would go. So that's funny.
I'll be there too. Same reason.
Yeah.
Breakfast with John and Imran. And I don't know, is George there this year? I don't know who's all there.
I don't know. But just catch up and just, not the pandemic's still going on though. It's still like, oh boy,
It's a perfect time to cosplay. You got a giant helmet.
Yeah.
Well, I may be wearing something of a costume. I'll just leave it at that.
Lord Helmet.
He's going as Captain Underpants.
You can go as Mysterio. Just put that big bubble in your head and you'll be safe.
Yeah.
Do you still get a lot of art? Have you slowed down or?
I've slowed down a bit. However, in the last couple of months, there's been an online eBay seller who actually, has a shop. Somehow they got a hold of a whole lot of Flash artwork from like the 90s.
Oh, wow.
And there's been a lot of like Greg LaRock artwork, that's when I got back into Flash, when he was on the book.
Yeah.
So I'm literally waiting for a page to arrive the next day or two of with Gorilla Grodd and Rex the Wonder Dog on it.
Wow.
But no, I have slowed down. But sometimes you see things that you just can't help. I can't help myself.
Now, when you say slow down, is it just a lack of things you're looking for that are out there currently?
No, it's a lack of funds.
Okay.
Well, I think I've mentioned to you guys privately, or maybe even on the way, I don't know, that with my surgery for the kidney stones last year, I was out of pocket for, a lot of money there. So I actually sold a cover that I had. I had the original art for the cover to Fury of Firestorm 41, a Crisis crossover with Harbinger and Psycho Pirates. I really hated to part with that, but I kind of needed the money. So, I'm not destitute or anything. It's just that I knew I could get a decent amount of money for that. So it's like I decided to, go into debt a little more, or just get some money out of there. But
yeah.
I hate selling artwork, but no, if I had the money, I'd be getting things left and right. I mean, I just see so many cool things out there that just scratch that itch that I have. Nothing that's outrageous, but just I'm after seeing so many things that are out there. But anyway, gotta be calm.
Yeah,
gotta be calm. But the nice thing about eBay is if you use PayPal, you get 6 months interest free on most things. So it's like, okay, push that off for a while, and that's how I justify some things.
Well, I miss the good old days of 2005 where our page was like $100.
Oh yeah.
Who says you can't pay for your kids' college education? Look, Pants is paying for the American health system with a cover. That's amazing.
Yeah, everybody in Canada and the UK and everywhere else in the world is like, he had to sell art to kidney stone. That makes no sense.
That's right. Yeah,
Right,
it's
right.
uniquely American
Yeah.
circumstance thing. Yeah.
You should be like that Office episode where who is it? Somebody starts off with like Dwight starts off with like I don't know, a paper clip and then trades it for something higher and higher, and as the episode goes, the item gets bigger. So whatever's like your least favorite page of art, just like see if you can trade it up and then trade up more and more until you get whatever.
It's funny. I talked about that with John
Exactly.
years ago.
Go right ahead.
And I said, all right, like, let's say I bought $100 page. Like, how many years would it take me till I was like trading crisis covers, right? Like from that initial $100 page. And he's like, I mean, basically it's impossible to do unless you just got super lucky, right? If you bought that $100 page and 6 months managed to sell it for 150, that would be an incredible accomplishment. And now you still only have $150. And then you have to like get that percentage lucky every 6 months. It would take years until you were anywhere close to, $80,000 for, a crisis cover or whatever the hell they go for now, right? Because that was years ago.
You'd have had to buy a Kirby page for $20 in 1975 or something like that.
Yeah, you'd have to get super lucky and go to a con. I mean, Pants has gotten somewhat lucky like that, where like somebody is selling $20 pages to benefit the American Cancer Society or something, and then you snatch up 10 of them, and then 6 months later you can dump them for $200. But even still, you still wouldn't have that much money.
Even the ones I have, I felt like I got luckily at a good price. Even at the time, I thought it was a good price. And if I bought 10 pages, 9 of them were under $100, and they're not shabby pages. It's just what it cost back then. But now,
I mean, I haven't even considered original art in years because of that same thing. It's like I'm so happy for the artist that they can
absolutely
get, like, what it's actually worth.
Yeah.
But the consumer, it's like that's just not in my budget, right? Like when I spent $400 for that Sergio page in 2005, I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I can't do this. This is nuts, but I'm going to do it because YOLO, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what his pages sell for now. I have no idea. I haven't ever looked, because I don't want to sell it. So it's worth $400 to me, right?
I think the lowest page I bought was right here. It's from Rock of Ages, the first panel where the villains are kind of shaded out around the table, and I think I bought it off eBay for $30.
Oh, nice.
And that's Howard Porter page from that JLA run, and that's like one of my favorite stories. So that's perfect. And I have a good Kevin Maguire page here from the Resurgence, formerly known as, and I have a Starman page and a cool Batman page from Justice League something. And I'm like, all right, that's it. I've got some of these really cool things, and I got lucky enough to get them. I'm good.
But see, you've got it right there. You have that stuff framed and hanging up there. I've got literally, I'm looking at 3 dozen portfolios over here, and
I've got 2 portfolios behind me that have stuff in it. Not all of it's comic book art, but I have 2.
I have a few things framed, but it's like, not nearly enough of what I have here. Like I got this little thing here. I don't know if you can see this.
Oh yeah.
The Sheldon Moldoff Kathy Kane Batwoman.
Wow.
But I have a few things framed, but I'd love to just. I mean, my walls here are bare, and I would love to just start hang this. But again, that's work.
Yeah. Well, up right here is the George Perez Blue Beetle that I got with you guys at Pittsburgh. This here is a Dan Atkins Batman from 1989 at a Pottstown comic show.
Yeah.
And then back there on the shelf is Ramona Fradon little Batman sketch I got at Baltimore, the last Baltimore I was at. And I'm looking to my left of the computer is a Nick Hardy, Dick Grayson, Robin head sketch from the one time I was standing in line with you, Peter, at the one Philly con. Yeah. And that's kind of all the art I have hanging up or framed. The other like dozen pages or so are in a portfolio. Yeah. Again, it's important to me, but it's nothing like crisis or the crucial important pages.
Pants, save that Batwoman in case you have an appendicitis.
Well, if I had any more medical problems, I might go Breaking Bad on y'all. So,
oh no, I just saw a couple not long ago, maybe just a few months ago, there were a bunch of Bruno Redondo pages from Nightwing, and they were not expensive. They were, some of them, the one I thought of possibly getting was maybe $200-300 or something like that. And then there was another one. Now then there were some that were like 1,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, even just a few months, now that a few months have passed, I have to imagine they're probably even more as his star rises and rises and rises. I mean, there was a cover on there that maybe was close to 1,000 or 1,000, and a couple pages 300-400. I'm thinking that's not horrible for who he is, for the title that he's on.
Sure.
And some of the images actually had worthwhile things. It wasn't just like some random henchman or whatever. It actually had Dick on the page. I think there was one that had, now I'm sure if I go to that site, they'll be gone probably. Plus throwing in, who else? Daniel Samper was doing Dark Crisis, I think. There were some pages that he was doing. All I remember is just seeing all these Nightwing pages, and I was like, oh no, oh God.
Turn away.
That's what Pants does. Every now he stopped, but there for a while, Pants would send me these heritage links. Yep. Here's a original art from Teen Titans, or here's a Perez thing. It's like, Pants, come on.
Send me a couple of them too over the years.
Damn, this grew. I don't know.
Oh.
I'm seeing a page. Oh, this website is trash. What even is this? Comic Art Tracker is like a piece of shit.
He's got a hernia operation he's got to pay for.
But it's a page. I'd have to go upstairs and check exactly which issue, but it's very close to the period. A random page, $7,500 for a Sergio page. Now that seems high for that page. I see another one, but it's much more recent than the one that I bought. It's $2,250.
Wow.
So apparently my $400 investment was good, especially if I don't sell it for 30 years,
Well, yeah. I mean, the comic book art world is like many collectibles through the pandemic has just gone off the rails. I'm just sitting back and enjoying it all. I mean, I don't have a lot of money that like these guys do to spend and research and everything. So I just get what I like, what I could afford, and have fun with it. And I said, I really haven't sold too much of it. I am at the point where if I need to, obviously I can, but like I said, I've got probably over 1,000 pieces of artwork. I just, one of them is from one book in particular, but I just still have a lot of things I love, and buy what you like.
Yeah.
Really talks to art.
Why don't you become an art dealer?
No, I don't. I have no business sense. I also have no sense to be it. But no, seriously, I mean, just I have no business sense. I can't do that. God bless him. Plus, I want to keep it all for myself. I take all the good stuff for myself.
That's always the fear of trying to work into business. What you love to do is that line of, now that it's a business, you really can't collect it anymore or play in that world. You kind of have to separate that and enjoy it as it passes through you. But you really shouldn't take stock in, ooh, look at this, a whole issue of Crisis. I'm just going to keep that, because that won't work. Your business will not thrive.
Well, that's a thing, is like, we know from hearing stories of like people who had pages that were like, you'd be crazy to sell it. They sell it because they're making tons of money on it.
Yeah.
And then they can use that to buy something else that they like just as much. It's just different. And they're like, look, if I can double my money, I'm doubling my money.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what page it is. Like, that's the way you're a collector, but temporarily. You can say, I used to own this page and I used to own that page, but now I own these other pages instead. And like, that would be hard for me to do, and I think equally as hard for any of us to do. Maybe not you, Peter. You'd be flipping shit like that.
Be all in.
But for a lot of people, that's hard. You're like, oh, I got the cover to Gru #1. Like, I'm never going to sell that. But then if somebody comes along and offers you $500,000, you go, okay, see ya.
Yeah,
yeah. And I've been going through a lot of my art recently. Rescanning it and just looking at it again. And I mean, I'm not on death's door, but I'm not going to be here forever. And I got to think, I got to think about if I drop dead tomorrow, my sister-in-law would come to this house and she would have a heart attack. I mean, she wouldn't know what to do with all this stuff. So I need to sort of plan ahead who gets what's of like Shane. I've got pages and things here that that's for Shane. Seriously, here's something that I think Murd would like or Peter would like. So it's like I would just sort of. I got to get a will, for Christ's sake, for one thing.
Well,
you got to get a power of attorney. You got to make one of us your power of attorney.
I don't know about that too.
In the event of my death, Peter is in charge of eBaying all of my shit.
Yeah, well, that's in the will. The power of attorney goes null once you die.
You need an executor.
That's what it is. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Well, I think you could have done. We always talk about dream jobs, but instead of selling your art, what if you would have through all the years of doing the show, met certain artists, you're like, hey, I'm going to buy your original art and I'm going to sell it for you and get a commission off of it. Then you're not really selling work that you have a total, 100% investment in.
Sure.
But you do have an investment in unloading pages and trying to make them money and make yourself. That could be cool. That could be a cool game.
Right. But again, I come back to the fact I have no business sense. And I'm being honest with myself. I just know I have no business sense.
All right.
Yeah, makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I did, but I don't.
Yeah. You know how to buy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's the fun part.
I got that part down.
You'd be a terrible broker. You know how to buy, you just don't know how to sell.
Buy. Oh, it crashed.
That's great. Did you go to RetroCon? Did you do that?
I did not, because Shane actually couldn't make it. He was a little under the weather.
I have a thing in my eye that I have to get taken care of, and the eye doctor, it's a sty on my eyelid here, and I didn't know what it was, and that was the appointment that the doctor had was, well, come in Saturday morning. I'm like, okay. I guess I'll do that.
Yeah. And then I looked and it was too to buy advance tickets. And it's like, I'm pretty much just going down there to spend $20 to get in to go see Mickey Dolenz and the Monkey Mobile because I don't want to spend any more money. It's like, let me just sit at home and, watch TV. Surprise, surprise.
Sit at home and pout. Look at your piles of artwork.
I did, I could have gone, but it's like, you know what? What are you gonna do?
I don't think I ever really sit at home and pout, especially, and not because of the pandemic. Before the pandemic, it was go to work 5 days a week, and that's fine because that's what it was. Now it's a little different. But through all that, what I've gotten to do is not only work here at my desk that I have in my favorite room in the house, but I could enjoy it. So frustrating conversation or a frustrating day, just kind of sit back, look around and go, oh, look, I remember when we recorded that episode and took everyone's picture. No, I remember when I was a pants and bought that. I've gotten to enjoy this room over the last 3 years 1,000 times more than I ever would have going to and from work every day, like normality would have been before that.
Yeah.
So that's one silver lining to it all is we pay so much for these houses and apartments and places we live and things we do and collect and whatnot. But I've gotten to enjoy it a little bit more than what I should have been just because of circumstance. And I don't take that for granted.
Yeah. Welcome to Therapy Geek Speak. Well, I watched Willow.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Now I forget. That was your first time?
It's my first time watching Willow.
I can't believe that.
What the F were you people thinking about?
Come on, it's great.
Yeah, it's funny because you're right. It's not, of all the fantasy movies of the 80s, it's not in the top 5. I mean, maybe someone could love it. I could see I could see the things as you're a kid, you're watching it, you're young. I could see the things that would kind of rope you in. And it's got okay, so it's a story by George Lucas, right? And as I'm going through, I'm like, yeah, I could see this being George Lucas because it pulls from everything. I'm at some point, I'm like, this is Lord of the Rings. This is, this fantasy movie. I'm like, they get a fellowship, right? And they got to take the baby and throw her in Mount Doom or whatever, it's like they got to do something, right? So I'm like, okay. the shocker of it is that it's directed by Ron Howard, and it's terribly filmed. Like the way it's edited, there's things that, like, if somebody falls, it's almost like Monty Python. You would see him fall, but then it would immediately cut to them just laying on the ground, right? Or it's just the way it's edited and shot. I was like, this is not Splash Ron Howard. This is not, he's not there yet. Even though, like, what was the movies I did write? What other movies did he?
This isn't Apollo 13.
Yeah, right. He's not there yet. Right. Okay, I get it. But still, he's not far off from some movies that we do love.
Yeah.
From Ron Howard.
Splash, I think, right?
Well, Splash, but
Splash was first.
Yeah, I'd have to look to see what other ones were. The thing nobody told me was that Billy Barty is in it. I love Billy Barty. When I saw him come out as the high, priest, whatever thing, I was like, oh, it's Billy Barty from the old, Sid and Croft shows and other things. Like, he's great. So then, Bryan, you said Val Kilmer, right? Like, oh, Val Kilmer's so great. So you get the scene where you first see him, and then they go away and you don't see him again. Then he shows up again. They hand him the baby. Oh, no, that's when they hand him the baby. Then he loses the baby. You see him again, and then he disappears from the movie again until they have, like, the real two big battles at the end with the trolls and with the witch. You have no idea what the backstory for the witch is. You just know she's an evil sort of, Disney stepmother kind of way, whatever, that doesn't care. It's just this journey. Everybody's miserable. They're all yelling at each other. I was like, this movie is insane. It's so bizarre. But what do you think? What do you think was my favorite character? Who do you think were my favorite characters in the movie? If you remember the movie. It's not Willow and it's not Val Kilmer.
I was going to say maybe the fairies. The two little...
The brownies.
Yeah, the brownies.
They're hysterical.
Yeah.
Because it's Kevin Pollak and I don't know who the other guy is.
I forget who the other one is.
Slightly doing, kind of like a Mexican racist character.
Oh,
slightly,
A little bit.
Almost sounds like Charlito when Charlito used to do like the Puppet Rio stuff. Like
yeah. You're right. It does.
There's like one line. I don't even know how it happens or something. He's yelling at Val Kilmer, and Val Kilmer's walking away, and then one of them's like, "Your mother's a lizard," like just random lines that you don't even really. They're not important, but they're just so funny.
Yep.
So and they're going to be in the new updated one when I saw the trailer. I was like, okay, that's good because I like those. I like those guys. They're funny. They're racist, but they're funny.
You talk about the Ron Howard thing. It's like he was only, this movie Willow came out in 88 and Splash was 83. And Splash was his first movie. He had done some TV movies and stuff, but not like his first real movie was Splash. And so it was only like his fourth or fifth movie ever. And, when Lucas is writing and producing or whatever, like I never know, like, who do you blame for badness, right? Like, is the script awful? Because we know Lucas can't write a script to save his life, right? And like, if he was Mr. Star Wars and he's got a heavy hand probably in how things are done, and Ron Howard was still new. He wasn't Academy Award winning Ron Howard yet, right? So like, it was like, how much say did he really have? What was the budget? Like all that stuff, right? So,
because it's just an interest. So I looked it up. All right, so he did Splash, but he did Cocoon,
which was really great.
Good.
Yeah.
And he did Gung Ho, which is not a great movie, but I liked that movie.
I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when he then did Willow. And then afterward, Parenthood, Backdraft, Far and Away. Like he's starting to really do.
See, I think he probably really wanted to do those other movies. Like Cocoon, he was probably like, this is great. Like I want to make this movie. Whereas Willow was probably like, Lucas came to him and said, hey, do you want to do this movie? And he's like, I gotta say yes to a George Lucas movie, right?
Yeah.
Even if it means, well, because he had worked with Lucas on the Hot Rod movie, American Graffiti, right?
Right.
So they knew each other. So it was probably like, hey, you want to do this movie? I'm writing, like, oh yeah, that's cool. It's a George Lucas thing, right? So.
Right. And in 88, it wasn't the worst thing. I mean, as a kid, I was
Yeah.
What the heck was that? 16? I loved it, and I was 16 and enjoyed it.
Sure, yeah. The music is fantastic. Like
Yeah.
there's several sequences where the music kicks in, and I'm like, wow, this is A-level music for like a C-level scene. Boy, you want like it should be Raiders or it should be some Indiana Jones movie, you know, like you can feel like it wants to get to that adventure quality, and it's there in the music, and it's sort of there in the plot, but not necessarily in the execution, which was not, it didn't make me hate it. I was sort of laughing with it and at it as I was going, and I'm like, okay. By the end, I was like, okay, I should finally seen this effing movie after how many decades.
And I think that movie also has the notation of that animation, that computer animation of the morphing of the good witch, the good sorceress, when she morphs into something continuously. There's something to where that was the first time that had ever happened like that.
Right.
I can't remember what it was, but it has that distinction.
Yeah, she went from like a duck to a goat
all in one motion.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what though,
ILM.
Yeah. If you make this a drinking game, you might as well just check into a rehab every time Willow says Mad Mardigan, because I was like, oh my God, it's in every bit of dialogue, but then sometimes he says it twice in one sentence. I was like, you will die if you do a drinking game. Just don't do it. So I saw it. The trolls were creepy. The brownies were hysterical. And then I went and saw the trailer for the new series and was like, oh, okay, now this looks cool. Like, we might get like
something epic.
Yeah, some backstory, or, you know, I know it's generational, and because that's what was missing. There's no lore. It's just this baby is prophesized to be the end of the witch. You need to send it to, it's almost like Moses, you know, they find it and then you need to now go take it to whatever the other race is. But you don't ever know why. Why does she have the birthmark? How did the witch come to power? Why is Mad Mardigan the best swordsman? Because once he finally gets to do stuff, you're like, okay, that's cool. Like in the end battle. Why are there trolls? Why are there things? Why is Willow all of a sudden a sorcerer? Like, you know, just because he gets the wand, you know.
I think he always was. It's the same thing that Lucas plays with in Star Wars and so many other things. It's the underdog being able to defeat the bad guy and has some kind of inherent power that they really don't know or trust yet, but through this journey they end up doing it.
Yeah.
So it plays very heavily on Yoda, Jedi, and all that stuff along the way too.
Well, it's basically every single fantasy book ever is the young farm boy who doesn't know that he's going to be the savior of the entire world. Right? I mean, and that's why Star Wars is a fantasy movie and not a sci-fi movie, right? Like it's just,
Yeah. I just wish I wanted more. Like, but like I said, watching the trailer, I was like, oh, this is cool. There seems to be, you know, more world stuff, more world building. So,
well, they're going to have more time to do it too. And I mean, it's a series, so they have time to play around in that. Whereas this little movie, they probably didn't want to do that. They couldn't do that.
Yeah. And what's her name is back? The Val Kilmer's
Joanne Wally.
Yeah. So
I loved her in that. And then that's 90% of the reason I watched that 90s movie Navy SEALs was because she was in it.
I don't think
with Charlie Sheen and Michael Biehn.
Oh, okay. So there's my Willow review 30 some years later.
Hey, speaking of Ron Howard, did I mention this last time? And Pants, you would love this, but there's he and his brother Clint wrote a book last year.
Oh, you mentioned it at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, and the audiobook, they both read it. So the parts that are from Ron's perspective, he reads, and the Clint parts he reads.
Oh,
and
that'd be neat.
It's so good because obviously they know how to tell a story, both of them. And their story is really interesting, right? Like they're both sort of legends in Hollywood, right? And to hear them tell it in their own words it was really good. If there was ever an audiobook you would listen, that's the one, man.
I'll have to check that out. That'd be cool.
I think it's just called The Boys, like Growing Up a Howard or something like that. I don't know, something.
One of his best movies, well, to me anyway, that is so underrated. I absolutely love, and I watched it like 3 or 4 times in the last year, is The Paper with Michael Keaton and Marissa Tomei's in it. it's just a great movie. I usually skip the last like 10 minutes because I could care less. Everything's wrapped up before that. But I really do love that movie. And it's something that is so outdated even now because it's all about a newspaper. Well, how many of those are around in that way anymore? Newspapers are barely surviving.
That's Bryan.
I would watch that. I like Michael Keaton, so I would check it out.
I thought it was great.
A Beautiful Mind, Da Vinci Code, Frost Nixon. He has
Han Solo, man.
Oh, that's right.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's a great movie. I don't get the
adventure.
haters.
I don't either.
Because that movie is fantastic.
I've seen it. I just don't remember it enough to.
It's not the best movie in the world ever, but it doesn't have to be. It's a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Now, Clint,
I don't get it either.
Clint hasn't he been in every Star Trek franchise, right? Because he was in the original. Was he in Next Gen?
I think he had an appearance or something.
I know he's been in I'm pretty sure he's been in every Ron Howard production.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure if he's been in Next Generation.
I know he was in Deep Space Nine. He was in one of the movies, I think. I can't remember. But I thought he had the distinction of being in, because he was that creepy baby character.
Yeah.
The original.
Yeah. The Carbonite maneuver.
They talk about that in the show, right? And how it was like, they didn't even like because his dad was like their agent because his dad was an actor and like got them into it. And they were like, should we be in this TV show? Like this horrible Star Trek show, is really interesting. I mean, he has been in a bazillion things. His 251 titles he's been in on IMDb.
Yep.
That's the kind of acting. That's the kind of career you want for someone like that. Now, I don't know. I'm sure he's not a millionaire or like a major millionaire, but he has worked consistently. Yeah. Like we always see those side characters who you instantly recognize them because they're always playing like tough cops or they're always playing, an Italian grandfather or dad or something, or some woman is always playing a grandmother, and they're or the crazy neighbor lady, and they just are constantly working and they're in every show and movie.
Yep.
And it's like they're probably the happiest people because they don't have to worry about walking the red carpet and doing interviews. They just get their paycheck, they do their 3 days, and then they're out to their next thing. That's got to be great.
They still got to hustle a little though. They got to go audition and do all that stuff.
That's what you got the agents for, right? And then if you think of Charlotte Rae, is that her name? Facts of Life.
Yep,
Rae?
that's her.
Yeah.
Like I was randomly watching Hair, the movie Hair by Milos Forman, and she is in it for 3 minutes, and she plays a part that doesn't have any lines, I don't think. But you instantly recognize her, and she's dancing on the table with Treat Williams, and it's like, that must have been a fun day of shooting. And she's just, you're going to dance and twirl, and then I'm going to throw you off the table. Awesome.
I got a kick out of learning two things in more recent years. It's not been forever, but one of them was the guy who played Carmine Ragusa in Laverne and Shirley is in A League of Their Own movie. Right. Dancing with Madonna in the scene. I didn't know that.
Right.
But the other thing more important to me was I'm watching old Operation Petticoat with Tony Curtis and oh my God, I forget the other guy's name. But anyway, Marion Ross is in that as one of the nurses on the submarine that they pick up. Fantastic little bit part. And then I started like trying to find him. Oh, there it is. And then I could see her in all the scenes that whenever the nurses were in there.
You mentioned Charlotte Rae. I'm obligated to mention, of course, her classic appearance as Sylvia Schnauzer in Car 54, Where Are You? If you've never seen her and Al Lewis together, it's pure comedy gold. I mean, that's okay.
So speaking of Al Lewis, have I told you guys my Al Lewis story?
No.
I don't believe so.
No.
So for, some period of time, he owned a restaurant in New York, like in the Broadway area, right? And I think it was my senior year in high school, or junior or senior year, I don't remember. We took like a class trip to go see Les Mis, and then we went to eat afterwards because you're starving, and we ate. We went to Grandpa Al Lewis. It was called Grandpa's or something, I think, right? So, and he was there that night and came out and like walked around and like said hello to everybody. And I mean, at this point, you know, he's well into his 80s, right? Because this was like 1991 or something. And he was going around sitting next to one of my friends. She was very attractive, you know, like 16-year-old, and he like comes and puts his hands on her shoulder, and he's saying, I can't remember exactly what he said, but all I know it was highly inappropriate, right? And he was just like ignoring all of the guys and just talking to all of the like 16, 17-year-old girls. And then when he walked away, my friend was like, that was gross. And she was like a pretty like brazen, like took no shit kind of woman, right, in high school. And for her to be like creeped out, it was like that was at maximum creepy, because regular creepy wouldn't have bothered her, right? Like, because she has like a rough and tough kind of thing going on. Oh my god. Yeah, it was like, okay, so I can't watch the Munsters in the same way anymore.
Right.
Car 54, like I just can't, like it's
oh, there goes that illusion.
Wasn't he also regular on Howard Stern at that time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He was great. He was great on that show. So Clint Howard he was in the original, he was in Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, and Discovery. So maybe he wasn't in
Next Generation.
Yeah, he wasn't listed.
Yeah. And he's in Solo, a Star Wars story. Well, he's in all the Ron Howard stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, when I find out Ron Howard's directing something, I actually kind of like look forward to trying to find him.
It's like, where's Waldo?
Yeah. Where's Clint?
You know who else is like that? John Ratzenberger? Is that Cliff from Cheers?
Oh yeah.
Because he's in Superman movie, and he's in like a bunch
Empire
of other...
Strikes Back.
Yeah, right. And you're always like, look at there he is.
Hey, it's Cliff Clavin.
Yeah. It's like the guy in all the J.J. Abrams movies that I don't like.
I know exactly.
Like best friend or whatever. Yeah.
He's in Rise of Skywalker. He's in a couple of the Star Trek movies.
Star Trek Beyond.
He was on Alias, the TV show.
He was the pilot on the Lost Plane.
Yes.
Heroes was a big part of his.
Yeah. Someone find his name so he don't keep saying. We got to figure what this guy's name is.
He's another one that they probably just call him up. It's like, what are you doing this weekend? All right, we need you to come in. You don't need to learn your lines. We'll just post them somewhere and just what, makeup? Nah, whatever you look like. We'll just throw a costume on you and just because like when he shows up in Star Trek Beyond is like the guy
Greg Grunberg.
Thank you, Greg Grunberg. He's in that fishbowl space station, right? And as soon as they turn to him, I'm like, this asshole. You know, of course something's gonna go bad.
Well, right there, I thought he was just in Star Wars. What the hell? Yeah,
right. So yeah,
I was surprised they actually killed him off in Rise of Skywalker. He got blowed up real good in the X-wing.
Yeah.
So they don't have to do, you know, like I said, they only want him for a couple days.
Right.
He's probably like, my mortgage is coming up. I need to do a movie. Let me call J.J. Abrams. What do you got for me? Oh.
Speaking of Star Wars, has everybody watched any of the Andor episodes?
I have to watch the most recent episode, but I watched everything else.
Slackers.
Man, that show that's like the best Star Wars show yet, right? I mean, it's not a kid's show. It's just like a serious show that's just randomly set in the Star Wars universe, right? Like it's so good. Stellan Skarsgård, like adding some serious gravitas to the scenes. Like, oh my God,
I am loving it.
It's fantastic.
Feel free to talk openly because I didn't see it, but
I don't want to spoil it. It's too new. I don't want to spoil that for anybody or whatever. It's just a really, really good show. Well
produced, well filmed, well acted.
Everything. It's like, and it's serious, right? It's not like, again, it's not intended to be like family friendly. It's a show that's like, it's Star Wars and it's very connected to all the Star Wars stuff that we know and love, but it's like a serious show, and it's slowly building. Yeah. It's not afraid to take its time, which I'm thoroughly enjoying.
I just found out it's like 12 episodes for and we're not even halfway through it yet.
Nope.
Yeah.
At this point.
And it's what you guys were talking about, right? Didn't they say, because people are like, it's not necessarily about lightsabers and
no,
all that stuff.
It's set 5 years before the Battle of Yavin, before Rogue One, of course, and it is all about the ground roots of the rebellion starting and how he gets involved with it. You see things from other characters that you're familiar with, a couple of them, and just how they all tie together, sort of. And I imagine that will grow as the show progresses. But I'm loving how they're doing it.
It's no spoiler with Mon Mothma, right? Like that's
what I was not
she's
saying.
she's been in the trailers. Like you've seen her in the trailer. That's that to me is an interesting character because she shows up 2 minutes in the first trilogies, right? Yeah. And you're like, who is this woman that she commands such power? And she's like almost angelic the way they film her. So
what episode is this one? 4 or 5?
Oh, they just
5.
aired episode 5. Yeah.
Okay, so episode 4, I'm pretty sure it was. She has a part that is absolutely, I don't know, pivotal to me with her home life, so to speak. It blew me away. I just never would have expected that, and it sort of makes sense in some ways just for what you know of her now.
Yeah, that's a character that when I saw that she was going to be in, I was like, oh, that's cool because she's not used a lot, and it's a cool character.
Yeah, I really like what they're doing.
I was just talking to my nephew who's only 12, but he's all about the Star Wars and everything, and he told me that there's going to be there's already a second season of 12 episodes committed. Does that sound right?
I think
it could be.
No, I can't remember what I hear anymore.
He knows more about Star Wars than I do. He's only 12, so I take him at his word.
I can see it happening. I would think it's a no-brainer to happen.
Like you said, I know what I was going to say. You brought it up, Shane. Is like, this is the first Star Wars thing to show the timeline on the screen.
Yes.
In that first episode, it just said, and what's great is it says 5 BBY.
Yep.
So only fans know what that means, right? Like you'd be like, BBY, what the hell does that mean? Right. Yep. But we know what that means. And so I was like, oh yes. And now it all fits into place. Like we know what we're talking, where we're at.
See, just seeing that, I got really excited for that same reason. If you're, and I don't want to say true fan, that's not what I mean. But if you're a long time fan and you've read novels and comics and talked about it with friends, that little thing pops up, you know exactly what that means. In the same vein, in Rogue One, there's the scene where they go to Jeddah and they're walking through the city and Andor's with Jin trying to find his contact. And at one point, it's when you first met the Jedi light guy who's really awesome in the movie. And Andor pulls Jin away and she says, who are they? And he goes, well, they're the Guardians of the Wills. And I'm like, oh my God, the Wills. I know exactly what that's from and why they're mentioning it. And I'm like going through and trying to find, oh my God, I hope they do more with it. And of course, maybe they will never do more with it, but I knew what that was just from the very first novelization of Star Wars, where it's the story of Luke Skywalker from the Book of the Wills or something like that. I'm like, oh my God, they mentioned the Wills. Yeah. So like that kind of stuff is cool. It doesn't matter if they ever don't do anything with it, but if you've read a lot, if you've been this longtime fan, you just know what these little tidbit Easter eggs are. And it's not only cool to you, but it kind of enriches the universe a little bit more. And it was cool to see the BBY just fly right up there for a few seconds on the screen. Oh my God, I know right what that means. Apparently,
showrunner Tony Gilroy has stated that if they did a second season, it would end with the second season because that would lead right into the movie. So
yeah,
okay.
And I think that would be nice. Like I don't need it to be a 10 season show or whatever. Like I like this sort of more encapsulated. Like I'm almost worried about Mandalorian. Right? It's like we're getting season 3 will be coming out soonish, and it's like as much as I like that show and I don't really want it to go away, I wouldn't be sad if they just ended it because it's like you made it, you kept it good.
Yeah.
And then you stopped and then do the next Star Wars thing, whatever it is, right? Like I don't know.
And I love that they have Bo-Katan in it, but I'm also thinking about when she showed up in Clone Wars and Rebels, that was how many years ago, and she still looks like she's 30, but yet how many years have passed? Like at least 20, 25 years, 30 years. That's a little bit hard to they got to be careful how far they keep going with that. It doesn't ruin it, but it pulls it out a little bit for me thinking about, well, she was back there with Obi-Wan how many years ago?
So explain this to me. I don't think this is necessarily going into any spoiler territory because I think this is just material that's given and we just sort of know and expect it. So I just finished season 1 of Clone Wars because I'm slowly going through that. And I just got introduced to that blue-faced alien.
Cad Bane.
Yes. I just got introduced to him. Okay. So we know from episodes 1, 2, and 3, they get this clone army. They develop a force, a military force with the big destroyer ships that we know as being bad in episodes 4, 5, and 6, right? Like, it's so weird to me as I watch Clone Wars that I'm watching Anakin and Skywalker on what I think of as Empire ships.
Mm-hmm.
And the Separatists sometimes are using what I think are Rebel ships from. So I understand that that's what the development of 1, 2, and 3 was about, right? So where does the switch actually happen? Like, have we seen the switch? Where I guess it's in Revenge of the Sith, right?
It is.
It becomes the first galactic empire.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like, okay, all those people on the ships that were fighting the Separatists, they're like, oh, wait, we now are bad guys? Wait, what happened?
Well,
I thought
that doesn't happen for a couple years. It's a few years into that. You get through Clone Wars cartoon, you get through Revenge of the Sith, and right after that, it's the first galactic empire. So except for like Bail Organa, Yoda, Obi-Wan, and a select few around them, everybody else is like, oh, well, the galactic empire, the new galactic empire defeated the Separatists. We're good.
Right.
Peace throughout the world. And then a few years later, well, now the empire is just taking whatever they want to satisfy their needs. And then you start to see just how bad everything's going to get.
So are the Separatists, do they really become the rebels, or that? I mean, because we know that that's just Palpatine's ploy to build the empire. I get that. But I swear I see some of their ships and they look.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah. And so maybe it's just
whatever worlds were part of that realize what the empire is going to do, and then they join the Rebel Alliance.
Okay.
But even right through the Battle of Yavin, all of that is very, very frail, very fragile, not really cohesive. It's not until that point forward that it becomes more solidified.
Yeah. And I know it makes sense, and I just didn't remember if we saw it, or if maybe that's something the novels took care of, or maybe these prequel series will eventually take care of. So eventually,
I think we're still piecing together lots of it, right?
In the new timeline, yeah.
Okay, all right. I got a ways to go yet. So.
How about She-Hulk?
Oh, I'm loving that too.
I just saw the latest. Did you guys see the latest?
No. Yeah. Oh, we can't talk about it. But
I know we can't talk about it, but it's, there you go. That's what a lot of folks are waiting for, and there you go.
Yeah, I have to try and watch that tonight yet.
Have you
watched any there is no
Peter?
try.
What's that?
You haven't watched any of
No,
She-Hulk
I'm still
yet?
back at Miss Marvel.
Oh, man.
I still got a ways to go yet. I mean,
have to finish that.
I've seen a few clips here and there of She-Hulk, so it's not like I'm not too worried about like major spoilers or anything like that.
It's just like, it's so entertaining.
Yeah.
Every episode. And like the whole family, like we watch shows as a family, right? Like with the kids, right? So we'll watch all the Marvel stuff, all the Star Wars stuff, the Lord of the Rings thing, some other random things. And if there's a She-Hulk, that's what just everybody. I just want to watch Andor immediately. I'm outvoted. Like everyone's like, no, She-Hulk trumps Andor, and I'm like, it's good. I don't know if it's that good, but all right, I can't complain. I'm still watching She-Hulk, right?
Yeah,
but, man, it's so good.
That's another thing where I see on Facebook and other places people are thinking boring. There's no budget. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm loving it.
It's really like I never really read the comic on a regular, the John Byrne stuff like regularly. I've read a few issues here and there, but you would see the covers, and even the covers were breaking the fourth wall and stuff, right? Like it was widely known that book was very tongue in cheek, right? And so the show is exactly like that. It's so great. I love that not everything has to be so perfectly, executed like the way that all the rest of it is. Like each of these franchises can sort of have its own personality, yet all the pieces all fit together. I think it's really, the variety is nice.
And like you said, it doesn't take itself too seriously. There's the one scene in the first or second episode where Jen's talking to Bruce about defending Abomination and says, you're all right with this, whatever. And he's like, yeah, back then I was a totally different man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. It's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't get it. It's to me, it's their first sitcom, and it's golden. I would take. I don't want every show like that, but this fits perfectly.
Right.
Yeah.
And not every, they're smart about switching genres and switching tone.
Yeah.
Because some people like the more humorous things. Some people want the more Marvel Universe connected stuff, So yeah, And it's only how many episodes how soon before the next one, whatever's the next thing. It'll be here before you know it. So.
Actually, as you mentioned, I believe tomorrow we will see Werewolf by Night.
Oh,
Really?
Right.
Oh, is that tomorrow?
Oh,
I
wow.
think it is tomorrow as we
I
record
didn't think that
this.
was tomorrow. Oh, cool.
I think it debuted today at New York Comic Con. So if you're looking for
Okay.
spoilers, stay up. I believe it's October 7th, which is as we record this tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
It's coming out. So there you go.
Oh, that's cool.
That looks great.
Yeah.
No matter who's in it,
It's getting good buzz and it's getting good reviews. So
What is the next show? I don't remember.
I don't remember if it's Secret Wars or
it's the Black Panther's the next movie.
yeah.
I might
And
take it
then-
already.
And then Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, although that looks like it's just
Wonky.
or no, just not it. They didn't give it a time yet. I Am Groot. I think that's already out.
That's already out.
I Am Groot is out? I must have missed that.
Yeah, it's little snippet shorts. I haven't watched any of them yet.
Gotcha.
I think they're flipping back to the movies. I don't think there is anything. I know that Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania is on the docket, but let me look up.
No, yeah. The next is Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. After Werewolf by Night, then there's What If, but that's not till next year. Yeah, I think that's the last one this year is the Guardians Holiday Special.
Right. So this might be it for the year.
Yeah.
That's fine, and it's fine.
Yeah. Then they kick into the whole next phase.
Peter, I wanted to mention to you if you do look for something Willow related, there was the 3 books that were written by Chris Claremont that kind of continue a story with that. I read the first 2. I never read the third one. They're okay.
Novels or comics?
Novels, full-blown novels.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so behind on everything that people recommend things for me to watch and I'm like, please don't.
Yeah.
Like, I can't. I got, I was just happy that I've, when I finish a season of something, knowing I still have, 8 more seasons.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to get to Superman and Lois season 2 because
Me too.
if they didn't put it on HBO Max for the longest time, they would run it, but then you would have to go to the CW site. And I'm like, no, I already have, just dump it on there.
Not always on the CW site do they keep all episodes. There are shows where they drop the oldest ones. And I'm like,
right.
Once I miss like 2 of them, like, oh, well, I just got to wait now because I'm not going to try and catch up on that.
And is that on season 3 or is
they're filming season 3 right now?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
So I want to watch that, but I'm rewatching the first season of it just because I'm stupid like that, But it's a good series. It's actually very good for all the CW shows. I mean, you can tell they have money behind it. The writing is really good, and what they're doing with it, I think, is great. And everything I see about season 2, I'm like, I gotta get to season 2, which is why I was so pissed off HBO Max took its time.
Yeah,
like, come on, I want to watch this.
Yep. So. They did the same thing with Stargirl season 2, and I had to wait for that to come on, whatever, if it was HBO Max first or wherever I saw it. But I had to wait for that because I missed a couple episodes on the CW app, and I'm like, no. And I'm sure as hell not buying it when I have HBO Max. That's just ludicrous.
And these are good problems to have, waiting for a TV show to come on.
Sure.
Well, even like Walking Dead. Walking Dead season 11 has had half of, I guess they're in the halfway point, still hasn't dropped on Netflix yet. So it's like, come on, Walking Dead, AMC. Like, what do you? I don't get all that contract stuff.
Well, they have their AMC Plus too, I guess. So.
I guess, and that's why isn't the WB like pulling out of all these streaming places because they want to consolidate, right? They just put all their stuff in one place, and it's like, whatever.
And Discovery's probably going to screw that up some too.
Oh, I did get Paramount Plus though. I got a year of that free through my phone.
Oh, nice.
I was like, hey,
nice.
There we go. Gonna start doing some Star Trek watching. So
Yeah,
Go
I held off on that for quite a few years, and then finally Picard and Lower Decks was coming up. I'm like, I gotta get it now.
I'll watch it for a year for free.
I finished Strange New Worlds. Man, that show is just so good. It's so good.
Yes, it is.
I don't know how long I have to wait for season 2, but man,
It's too long.
I'm ready for it right now. That guy, the captain Pike, like I could watch him just be captain forever.
Now,
like,
if you didn't do it, watch season 2 of Discovery. You really don't need the first one. Okay.
I've watched this first season of Discovery, and I'm working my way through season 2 now. Yeah.
Yeah. He's such a fantastic job. Like you said, he is just fabulous at that character. I could watch him all day long.
Yeah, he's like the quintessential captain.
Yep.
Right? It's just
Yeah, his mannerisms and how he delivers everything. It's probably one of the best performances I've ever seen on a Star Trek show ever, if not most of TV. I really enjoy his performance.
Pants, are you caught up with that?
No, I mean, I haven't started it yet. I'd like to start it because I know that I don't have to be beholden to other shows necessarily to get into it. But again, I have other things I'm working on right now.
Yeah.
I guess I could ask this without spoiling it. Bryan, remember we talked about, you were saying it was very episodic and you were hoping it would come to like some kind of story by the end of did it do that for you, or is it just good enough that it doesn't matter anymore?
Yeah, I feel like so far it's been mostly still episodic.
Mm-hmm.
But it is so good that I sort of forgot that it was episodic, and I just kept watching because it was so compelling. And now that you asked the question, I'm like, I guess they never did do an overarching storyline. There's like little bits, of course, that carry over, and they're like very, very slowly injecting this larger story, but it's not like there's an arch villain and we're trying to capture him or whatever. It's not like that.
Yeah. There's one theme that's very specific to Pike that carries through the whole first season, and it comes to a head in the last episode, and it's very well done, but it's not overbearing. It's not pounding on you every single episode as something detrimental to his existence. It's very well placed.
Maybe it's just that it's Pike that they've sort of narrowed into his character, and that's the thing that brings you back. Because when you watch those original series episodes, it very much is the Kirk show a lot of times, especially in whenever they want to solve the situation, it's always the Kirk speech or whatever, So they might have episodes. It's not like Next Generation where it's like, here's a Beverly Crusher episode, here's a Riker episode. It was almost always either Kirk or Spock, but mostly Kirk, and very rarely was it about any of the other ones, So that formula is probably what's keeping New Worlds going too.
I think they're doing a really good job of, like, the supporting cast is very strong. Like the characters, the actors are fine too, but I'm speaking specifically about the characters. And they do a good enough job of like using them enough that, but then when they bring Pike back in, so it's not like, it doesn't feel like the Pike show, but you love it when he comes back on screen.
Yeah. Right.
So they almost like hold him away from you just long enough to make you like, I can't wait for Pike. And then he's there and you're like, he's so happy. It's Pike again. Right.
Yeah. Like you still need him to resolve the episode or resolve some conflict or whatever it is.
Right. Because he's playing the role of captain. So he has to be involved in the things because he's in charge. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's things that rattle him and there's things that he questions, but that's where he goes to Spock or number one and just talks about it kind of privately, as he should, and then portrays something different for the majority of the time as captain. Again, which is kind of what he should do anyway.
All right.
It's really well done. And there's just through that supporting cast, there's just enough build for each of them that you get to learn a little bit. But it's not like, here's an episode on just this person or that person, like what Next Generation did do. And then, not that was bad, because I enjoyed that too.
Sure.
But this is just, I don't know, they really took their time in planning this out, or really just got damn lucky, because it's really well written, and the supporting cast is fantastic. Their characters.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Next Generation really was an ensemble show.
Mm-hmm.
to the point of LeVar Burton on Twitter posted, speaking of wedding anniversaries, Brian, he posted his wedding anniversary, which I don't know, it was like 30 years or 25 years or 40 years, something like that. And in the picture of his wedding reception is the entire Next Generation cast, you know? Yeah. And he even says, I really didn't know how much while I was beginning my family, how much they were going to be my family for the next how many decades.
Yeah.
And that show really is an ensemble show, because I'm in season 5. I'm starting season 5 of Deep Space Nine. And as great as some of those characters are, even for seasons in, I really don't care about Dax. I really don't care about the Doctor. O'Brien is a racist character in that show. Like, he really annoys the heck out of me. Like, that show to me is very weak in terms of ensemble, even though it is an ensemble, but very strong in story. Like, the story more than makes up for it. And then also watching Voyager, getting ready to watch season 2, and whoa, that show, you know. So really, Next Gen was the one that became the ensemble show, you know, more so than just captain driven.
Yeah, I think out of I mean, Deep Space Nine is my favorite for the story that goes through the entire show. Once you get past the first season or season and a half.
Yeah.
Who was it that you just said that really does bug me? Oh, the Doctor. He's probably my least favorite, not because it's terrible, but I just don't always care. I care later. He gets better later,
right,
but the first few seasons, yeah, I see his episodes. I'm like, okay, I'll skip that one this time.
It really made me go, okay, when they bring in Worf in season 4, I was like, yes, thank you.
Yeah,
another very well developed, strong character. Yeah, you can do stuff with.
And then from that point on, they do interesting things with Bashir's character, and I do like him more from that point on. But yeah, it takes Worf coming in and them settling down with a story, including him, bringing other fans into the show that weren't there before, and then they get a little bit better with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Worf coming in season 4. Spoilers, guys. Some of us aren't there yet.
Sorry, I forget where you are.
Still in season 5 of Next Gen right now. So
you can skip 7.
What the statute
7.
of limitations on
I know.
30
years. Get over yourself. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Season 5. Yes.
I don't know what happened in I just blanked on the name of the fucking movie. So the whole joke of the Rosebud, Citizen Kane is what I was trying to Thank you for knowing what I say, but I didn't say anything.
I got you, man.
I will say the one place that annoys me when they do say like, oh, that's 30, 40 years old, it's like comics and stuff you read, because like Star Trek is sort of not as big as Star Wars, but it's kind of people know Star Trek, right? But I do get annoyed when people are like, oh, you didn't read Watchmen. It's been how many years, too bad. I'm going to spoil. It's like, no. You can't do that. Because first of all, some people weren't even alive when it came out, right? Like, it's not their fault that they've read everything you've read. Like, you can't just assume that. So that's one place where I'm like, let people read comics when they get to it.
Not everybody's ready to just read Watchmen when they first see a comic book.
Exactly. Even though there was a movie and all that, but they're always like, oh, that's been out for 30 some years. Okay, but maybe that guy's only 12 years old. What are you supposed to do? He's supposed to read 40 years of your comics library in 10 years? I haven't even read all the stuff.
It works much better once you've had some comics history under your belt before you jump into Watchmen. It really does.
Sure. Yeah. Actually, I was just kind of poking around, speaking of things that are like decades old, but I haven't read it. Batman Hush came out 20 years ago, October 2002.
Wow.
And you never read that?
I've never read it.
I like it. It's not my favorite story, but it's up there further than some.
I want to read it. Actually,
it's beautiful.
Beautiful artwork.
I remember when it came out, I think I even picked up the issue and was like, oh yeah, I should buy that, and then didn't. One of my reading projects is reading DC from like 98, 99 on to hit when like Jeff Johns got on into DC, to hit when JSA came came about to hit Dan DiDio's tenure, and all that.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was because I've never read Hush and I've never read a few other things from that timeline. So I'm sort of like, I'm working my way closer to that. I still got a couple years to go, but
yeah,
20 years of Hush.
I want to go back and I've talked about it for years, and I really should do it before I keel over. I want to go back and because I've never read it, but I have it, is All-Star Squadron, Young All-Stars, all of that stuff.
Right there with you. That's on my list of things to reread. Yes.
Give yourself time per issue on those really wordy Roy Thomas All-Star Squadron issues. Woo!
Yeah.
That's like, you don't take that one to the toilet, because that's gonna
unless you went to the like Brazilian barbecue the night before. And,
Brazilian
time.
barbecue. That's good stuff.
Did we read? We had some comics we thought about reading. Did we?
Yeah, I read them.
Speaking of wordy.
Yeah.
Well, one of them was, one of them wasn't.
Actually, if you're talking about Daredevil, I did take that to the bathroom when I read that and sat down, and I remember this clearly. Sat down, opened that first page, and went, "Oh shit, I can't." Literally and figuratively, I can't read this here. This is too long. That's funny. But they were. So we talked about reading Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man #1 and Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada on Daredevil #1 from the Marvel Knights from 1998. We were like, let's just read some good first issues and kind of talk about it.
And let me just point out to you, if you're looking right here, is where my Daredevil was. And I just should have looked right there first instead of downstairs at everything else. So frustrating.
Going around the world in your room.
Yeah. Yeah. To people listening, I had sought out Daredevil 1. I thought I knew where it was. It's downstairs in all those comics. And I said, let me organize the comics. I found everything else related to Kevin Smith and Daredevil. And then I said, okay, now I got to go upstairs. And like, I looked, oh my God, there's a box that has a note on it that says Daredevil. Open up and there it is. Unbelievable.
I got a kick out of all the text messages. I found this. I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer.
Yeah, I found Daredevil, I think Target by Kevin Smith. I found Spider-Man, The Evil That Men Do. His Green Arrow run. It's like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. Plus, like, here's Daredevil with Mark Waid. It's like, come on, where's? And I did find it eventually.
I have the hardcover, so I just walked right up to my shelf and just, because they're alphabetized. And
yeah.
I thought it was neat. I looked at the cover, and down at the bottom with the signature box of Quesada and Palmiotti, it says 381 underneath it there, considering the continuing numbering of Daredevil.
Oh.
I like that.
Oh, they even did it so the legacy number was on that?
I haven't looked at the other covers after #1, but they did it right there for #1.
Huh.
I never noticed that on that cover.
Yeah, I just
Neither
thought
did
that
I.
was always,
it's on issue 2.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
It's in the signature.
So I'm sure that's sort of something that he just did. I don't think that Marvel intended to put that on there, but that's cool that he did it.
I had mentioned that when I got back into comics in the late 80s, early 90s, I was strictly DC with my blinders on, and that Kevin Smith got me into Marvel. That's absolutely true, because I went through my database and I'm looking what ongoing titles was I reading at that time. And I might have had a sporadic issue or two here of like Marvel books, but this was the first ongoing, as it came out, Marvel book I was getting, cover dated November of 1998. And after that, I see that I picked up like some Black Widow, Elektra, the Marvel Knights proper title. There was also even a Byrne Hulk that came around that time. But no, first thing was Daredevil. And I think it was Wizard Magazine that, pointed this out to me. Oh, because that was a big thing at the time too, that, hey, check out Daredevil by Kevin Smith. And I did.
Yeah.
Well, that was also responsible for me, like getting full back into comics, because I was like in my doldrums there because I was working, out of college and like busy with just work life and whatever. And so I was, I still had my subscription at Golden Eagle. Basically, it was just like grew and like that was it. And I would just go in once every 2 months and just pick up a couple issues, and I was barely even reading stuff. And then a guy at work said, "Hey, I heard Kevin Smith's writing a comic book," and I was like, "What? Are you serious?" And he was like, "Yeah, Daredevil." And I was like, "I need to." He heard on the radio or Entertainment Tonight or what? I don't even know. Right? He just heard randomly somewhere because he wasn't a comic fan. And then I was like, went to Golden Eagle, and it was like it had like just come out that week or something. So I picked it up. And then once I was like back in the store and like reading a good comic, then it was like I started to get back into everything.
Wow.
And then that was, so he was responsible for me returning to comics, you know.
And it's good for him. I mean, he had written some Clerks comics,
Yeah.
but not anything mainstream. And then you read this first issue, and even as I read it now, how many decades later, I was like, it's still compelling. I find it very compelling still.
Yeah, and we talked about wordy. It's like, oh my God, that letter from Karen goes on, but you get your money's worth out of this thing. And again, this had me hooked because I stuck with Daredevil even after he left, after only 8 issues, all through whatever came next. I think
David Mack, and then
where
Bryan
Echo appears in issue 9, and then like Brubaker and Bendis. So I stayed with that all the way through. But this is what got me into it. And yeah, damn, good stuff. I was just checking over like a couple of tiny Easter eggs, like on the second panel at the very bottom. It says there's a movie marquee, and it says Steven Spielberg's Ash.
Yeah,
of course, with Palmiotti and Quesada. And speaking of Wizard Magazine, I think at the time there was an interview where Kevin Smith mentioned, and I'm going to put Jay and Silent Bob in the first issue of Daredevil. And I'm like, okay. And then I read it, and I'm like, what? Where are they? Do you know where they are in this first issue?
No.
I remembered from the article on Matt's speed dial, they're in Braille on his speed dial. I'm like, okay, there you go. Not too obtrusive. You would never know as he said it. And just now kind of Easter egg, that kind of thing. That was really cool. But yeah, the build up to that spread with the title page of Take a Leap. It's a leap of faith. Oh, good stuff.
Well, I thought what was interesting about reading this one and reading the McFarlane Spider-Man was how similar they both felt in the way that Quesada's artwork in this, like the Billy Club string reminded me of the spaghetti webbing.
Yep.
And that double page spread you mentioned too. Like there's a lot of art going on in this book. And and Quesada is he's cartooning, right? He's not worried about doing 100%. He's not doing Alex Ross realism, but he's not doing, for lack of a better name, like he's not doing Sergio cartooning. It's somewhere in the middle. It's comic book art, but faces are exaggerated, poses are exaggerated. I love the panel where Matt Murdock gets surprised and there's 2 little exclamation points in his red glasses. That's in the scene where he's talking with the girl. So it had an energy to it that I read the Spider-Man one first that echoed what I felt with the Spider-Man, which I really enjoyed. I forgot that his artwork is very expressive. And it fits really well for this character because Daredevil isn't in his Bendis gloomy phase yet. He's still sort of like the superhero, and you can see why Mark Waid would then go and try to return him back to that kind of swashbuckling, here comes Daredevil kind of mood, because that's kind of how this series started out. He's got some humor to him. Yeah, it's beautifully drawn. It's the whole package it's very good. It still holds up.
And I didn't even read anything after it yet. I wanted to save that. So I will get to that eventually. But I'm afraid if I'll start doing that, then I'll be going into all of that. Because after that, there's the first Echo, which is issue 9. And Echo has her own series on Marvel. So it's a whole thing. But
yeah.
I do have vague recollections of what happens next with some of the holy crap moments coming up.
Yeah.
And it's like, I really just I'm happy that I jumped on this Kevin Smith thing because I would have never got into all this Marvel and Daredevil, and then of course his other work with Marvel and DC, and it's like I need Batman Cacophony. He did even that, so I enjoy him as a writer. I really do. It's good stuff.
One of these first few issues, and I don't remember the number. I want to say it's 4, 5. It might even be 7 or 8. I can remember reading it and I did it when I reread it when I think we did it for the show at one time, tearing up at the one letter that he gets and reads for something that happens throughout the story. It's heartbreaking.
That's right. Yeah. Now it's come back to me now, Shane.
It was just fantastic.
So the previous volume ended with issue 380 in August of 1998, and it was written by Dan G. Chichester, and the penciler was Lee Weeks.
Oh wow!
Wow.
That wasn't a consistent creative team because Scott Lobdell was on it before that. And Joe Kelly was before that, and artists kept switching. Ariel Olivetti, Gene Colan, Bernard Chang. So, yeah, I mean, I was I reading Marvel at the time? I'm sure I was reading something from Marvel, but I was all in on the Marvel Knights because it was such an event. They did great promotion for it. You knew the first 4 titles. You were like, yes. Yeah. So I was in on the Daredevil. I don't think I picked up. No, I didn't pick up Black Panther right away. And Inhumans, I think I waited a little bit.
I read Inhumans right away.
Yeah. I want to say I picked up midway through that.
There was a Punisher too, right?
Yeah, and that was terrible.
Yeah.
That was the one where he was the ghost. He had the ghost guns. He was like brought back from the dead or something.
I don't remember. I don't know.
It wasn't the Garth Ennis one yet.
I was just going to say, was that because Welcome Back Frank's the one that I read first.
Right.
Okay.
That was like they kind of reset that character. Like, that first story, like,
yeah.
I'll look it up real quick.
I don't think I picked up Black Panther right away.
It took a while for me it took Mike Spillane to tell me about somewhere in the 20s. He's like, all of Marvel's, speaking of the new Black Panther movie, all of the Marvel fictional nations were about ready to go to war over a baby.
Okay.
And it was like Wakanda, Genosha, Atlantis, Lemuria, Latveria, like all the kings were coming together and having like this Zoom meeting, and I was like, and it's Christopher Priest, right? The way he can write. And I was like, there are it's Magneto, Doom, all these other characters just standing there. They're not fighting. They're having a conversation like kings would have a conversation. I was like, this series great. That's when I went back and I was like, I got to get everything. It's just phenomenal. I also I wonder, I don't know if anybody can answer this. Is this the first time that they really hammered? I know they did with Frank Miller during Born Again, but Matt's faith and how that is like a constant thing in this issue and in this run.
Well, I know that Kevin Smith is also very spiritual, so he brought that to this. I mean, I don't know. I read only so much Daredevil before this of his initial series. So I can't speak to that, but definitely in this series, it's front and center.
Yeah, I can't speak to whether it was in anything around after Born Again or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't remember. Where's Kevin when you need him?
But it's a great character piece, and it's such an interesting duality because he is a daredevil, yet it's so much of. Plus, the whole arc is called Guardian Devil as opposed to Guardian Angel, and this girl's saying that I know that you're Daredevil. God told me you're Daredevil, or whatever she says. Like it's just such an interesting way. And you're right. I mean, I love Dogma for what it was. It was such an interesting movie. So for him to hit on this, and clearly it's certainly been part of his character ever since, because even the Netflix show tapped into some of that. How many decades later? So that Punisher volume was Christopher Golden with artwork by Bernie Wrightson.
Wow.
4 issues. Jimmy Palmiotti was the inker. and that was one of the first 4. And then The Punisher by Ennis and Dillon came out in early 2000, and that's when that series was amazing. Yeah.
And there also was an actual Marvel Knights book that I remember getting as well.
I don't think I picked that one up right away either.
Well, I guess they all came together. Is that what that was?
Yeah.
All the street level characters, right?
Yeah, like I said, my memory is hazy on those other books.
Well, you when you said Black Widow, you're talking about the 3-issue J.G. Jones Black Widow.
I believe so, and then there might have been an ongoing for that, and then like there was the Elektra.
That's where you first really got to know Yelena, the new Black Widow. Yeah, she showed up in
those back issues might be a little pricey as well.
I know, I had them.
Well, you're a read it and sell it kind of guy.
I know. I sold all this stuff about 15 years too early. Had I known the Marvel Universe was going to take off, I could be selling all this stuff.
Sure. Yeah, well, if I would have only held on to Amazing Spider-Man 298, 99, and 300.
If only. Yeah, we all have stories like that.
Ultimate Spider-Man 1 was one of those, like that thing. I don't know what it's selling for now, but at its height, like the highest I remember seeing it was like 125 ish, and I sold it probably around 40, which seemed like a lot of money. It's like $125. Come on.
So, Pants, have you read this? You've read this before, so you know the outcome. Yes.
You mean the Daredevil?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've read it when it came out, and I might have read it once. I don't know. Sometime in the last 15 years. I have a vague memory. I know like the big holy crap moment, which I believe was sort of teased at and switched around to the TV show. So I know where this is going, but I don't remember all the details. I know like what other characters come in. So I was like, I'm looking. See, now I'm going to just go back and just start reading. But so now, see, again, this is where I have to be careful with my personality. I'm going to start reading this thing. I'm going to start reading it again.
I was just trying to think because I'm assuming we all sort of know what happens. I don't want to say it, but I was trying to figure out if I could figure out who the big bad was. You really can't.
No, not until later.
Not right now.
I mean, the elevator sequence is enough to make you go, well, it's not Wilson Fisk, right? Because that's not his MO.
Yeah.
When this character, whoever it is, lets those 2 hoodlums go, Wilson Fisk would have killed him. He would have, either killed him by his henchman or by himself. But then they step into that elevator and they drown, and you're like, wait, what? What's going on? So I guess, there's no real way to kind of get a sense of what's going on, which is good for a first issue. Okay. I was in it.
Yeah, it's supposed to set you up and get you excited to see what's next.
Yeah. And I really like the page where Quesada and if it was Quesada's choice, if it was the color artist who is Dan Kemp from Bryan Haverland Studios, where Daredevil's like almost all black except for his boots and his gloves and his belt. I love that look.
Flipping through the air on top of the building.
Yeah, that sort of negative contrast is really great.
Page 15 in the book, yeah.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like you said, at the end, those last 2 panels, whipping out the billy clubs, and there's that crazy string that makes you think about the Spider-Man spaghetti web.
And the cover, right? Like even the cover's like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
It still holds up 27 years
absolutely.
later. Yeah.
I was very pleased to rediscover that.
I'm going to read it all. I can't do this one issue off. Like I'm going to have to read it all because it's just like, okay, now I got to know. Yeah.
I will too, but for this discussion, I didn't want to spoil 100% ahead.
Sure, right. Right. But it makes you remember, because this is a journey. I mean, this is the one that goes all the way up to like 100 and some before it switches back to 500. And I remember we read I think we did an episode on Brubaker and Lark when they took over, when Matt Murdock was in prison. I think we did like an episode on that. I know I haven't read all of the Bendis run on it. I think
so
No,
good.
no, I know I didn't do
I
that either.
love that. I have all the hardcovers. Just I love that stuff. So I mean, I'm just unapologetic about how much I love Bendis's writing. Like it's like he's writing only for me, and he doesn't care about anybody else. That's how I feel when I read his stuff. And the Daredevil, just like he was like he nailed the character. I think just like the mood of the whole thing. It was just awesome.
Perfect
It's
fit.
just like and when we're talking about like Spider-Man, of course, and then Spawn. We mentioned Spawn last time, and Bendis's run on Sam and Twitch, like those two ancillary character detectives or whatever from Spawn. But then he did a whole like 12-issue series or whatever on them, and it was brilliant, just so good. Those I definitely recommend reading that series.
Well, real quick, here's something I didn't even realize because this is in the pre-pants era. You guys did a book of the month club on this storyline, like in July of 2005. I don't remember ever knowing about that, but there it is, right there.
One of our first book of the month clubs.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it the first one or no?
I think it was Walking Dead, wasn't it?
No, Crisis was the first.
Crisis was first.
Right. But yeah, this is from like the first 4 months of the show.
It's probably the second one because I think we probably were going DC and then Marvel. And,
Oh, there you go. That's right.
I think you're right.
Because I think Bryan, it was your suggestion that we do Crisis. You were like, let's do Crisis. I was like, whoa, that's a big one.
I don't even that might have been the first time I read Crisis.
Maybe.
So maybe I wanted to expand my horizon.
Sure. And that's why we got Adam on the show to do that. And then I didn't realize we had covered that. I didn't go to look it up.
Neither did I. Like I said, again, in the pre-pants era.
So many years ago. You can't remember.
Going back, 17 years now?
Now, Pants, I don't know if it's in the collection. Does the collection, or do you have the Wizard half issue?
I'm sure I do. Because I was big into getting those half issues, getting the little shiny certificate with it there. Yeah, I've got that somewhere in the house. That I did not look for. But no, I've got that around here somewhere.
I'm pretty sure the trade paperback I have of this first story arc has that half issue in it.
Because that takes place between issues 6 and 7.
Well, then I'll look.
But it's weird because it was written after they had wrapped it up. I think it did come out between issues 6 and 7.
It came out around that time, as I recall from looking at my database. Yeah,
they might have did that because I think some of the later issues were a little delayed. And apparently, there's also this was released in 2008 because I was just Googling things. There's a prologue, a 0 issue that was released as what they called a cyber comic, one of those. Every time you
I don't know if I ever read that.
Every time you hit enter, a balloon will come up, and then the panel, and then a balloon.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
And it's about it's real short. All it is I think it's Daredevil coming home and finding the letter. So it's like right before that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever saw that.
I don't remember that either.
Yeah.
I don't think the half issue is in here.
Oh.
In this hardcover.
That's a shame.
I have to check my trade.
There's also no
read it off the iPad.
There's also no episode issue 12. It goes. This hardcover has 1 through 11, and then 13 through 15. 12 must have been on fill-in.
I think the trade I have is just the first storyline.
I thought the storyline was only 8 issues because issue 9 is the appearance of Echo, and that's David Mack taking over.
Yeah. Well, this is the Kevin Smith and David Mack hardcover. And then the Bendis hardcovers. There's like 4 of those or whatever, and then the Brubaker Lark stuff is like another several hardcover. I have them all.
Things collected. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Well, that issue 12 is a fill-in by Jimmy Palmiotti and Rob Haynes. It's collected in some hardcovers from certain years or some trades. So maybe they just skipped it for that one. Because it was
this was I think that this one I have is like the first one that they did, and I know that those fill-in issues don't necessarily have anything to do with whatever else you're reading, but it's like just print them. Like it's
that is something that I will always say the Starman omnibuses did brilliantly. Is every single issue that was through Jack Knight's time there, they're in the hardbacks where they should be throughout the whole thing.
Power of Shazam?
Yeah.
Do they
Yep.
do Legends of Dark Knight, the annual?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Because that's the one most people don't know about. That. And what about like some of the 80-page stories and stuff?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
They're in
Oh,
there.
that's good. That's good.
The Starman, Hellboy, Batman 3-part
Oh,
issue
that's right.
in there.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's interesting that the Hellboy that they can reprint that. That's interesting.
I don't know if they got special permission or whatever, but it's in there. It was brilliant.
I follow a couple of the binding. Remember the people we were talking to them all the time.
Library binding.
Yeah. And Houchin or whatever, I forget what.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of Instagram accounts that are from maybe the same people or new people who are doing, still doing incredible bindings. I think I'm a little more enamored with how they design the actual covers and the spines more than when I look inside and, sometimes the inner art gets a little cut off and stuff like that. But I always think about those when I think of how major publishers sometimes they just get collections wrong, like they skip an issue, like you say, or they purposely miss some stories that you're like, why is that not in there and why isn't it in the correct order? Give me that job. I want that.
Yes.
I was talking to a friend about the Bahaha Justice League in the first arc, and I said, if you've never read this, it's fun. It's not very serious. You may not even know all the characters, but it's a lot of fun. And I found it on a website for like a new version of it for like $5, $7. And my son Ben was wanting some Nightwing trades. So I threw that in there and I bought it for my friend at work to read. And I got it and I'm paging through it and I'm like, the heck, all the covers at the back. There's no separation between issues. I'm like, ah. So I gave it to her and I'm like, look, it's still the same story, but the separations are here, 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 and here. You can tell in the story, but I like the covers where they belong. Like, why do you have to mess with that? It's not hard.
Yeah.
Somewhere Robert Kirkman is having a flashback right now.
I still have that trade paperback of Walking Dead 1 where he signed it, jerk off or whatever. Like, he called me a jerk because I was bitching about the covers not being between.
And didn't he go in and actually?
Yeah, he put a mark on each first page of each issue or whatever.
I forgot about that.
How did that get to him though? Did we ever find out how that got, or did you?
I don't.
Because he knew.
He knew. He knew. He was like, "Oh, you're the guy."
Yeah, right.
It's like, yeah.
Because that is where we did. Yeah, we did The Walking Dead. I think the listeners told us to do it.
That's right.
It was the first 2 volumes.
Yeah,
because none of us wanted to read it. We were like, I don't care about zombie comics. Right. And then we were like, ooh, I care about zombie comics, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Bryan complained about where does one issue end and one begin? And when we go, I don't know what convention was it?
It was Baltimore.
Yeah. And Margaret takes your book and he fucks it up. It just.
Do you still have that book?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you got to bring that out sometimes. Scans of it or whatever.
He autographed it, something like, thanks for reading, jerk face, or something like that. Like it was like,
oh God.
You know what? I'm gonna go get it because I want to get it right.
Yeah.
That is a great.
That's great.
That's a great moment. It was a great story. I remember him. We were like, Bryan was laughing when he was getting it, and we were. I don't know who else was there. Were you there? We were all there. I think that.
I'm sure we were. And
we were just stunned that he even knew. So somehow it got back to him. But you know what? In those early days, what was so great about those early days, because nobody was doing podcasting like they are now.
Yeah.
So it would get back probably, like, hey, they just
got mentioned.
Yeah, or maybe somewhere they're like, why all of a sudden are Walking Dead trades being purchased, right? Because we did have a lot of that power. We would say, hey, go buy this, and everybody would. In fact, somebody just said that to me recently, maybe on like an Instagram comment. They were like, you guys, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, yeah, you made me spend a lot of money over the years. It's like, yeah, that was, everybody always said that's what we did.
Yeah.
That was so great when that happened. I remember it was so funny.
Oh, it just says, eat me, jackass.
Did he sign his name though, at least?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see if I can put it up to the camera.
Oh, that's great.
I'm gonna try to find issue 2 here.
You
and see
gotta
what...
take a picture of that, post that online.
That
Oh
is
my
hysterical.
god! The power of CGS.
I did have at the first New York Comic Con. I took the Neil Adams 3 Batman hardcovers, and I took one to meet him and have him autographed. And it said about his usual spiel about, the first 2 are free or whatever, and then you pay for the rest or just come back the next day. So I just brought him back each day, and by the 30, he's like, you're back again. I'm like, yep, I sure am. I had nice little conversations with him the whole time. I had a great time meeting him. But yeah, and he just signed him normally. He didn't do anything like Bryan's. But
Oh my god.
I don't see any marks, Peter. He must have just gone through and pointed to him. But I thought I remembered him like drawing a check, but there's nothing in here.
Oh, okay.
It's still funny.
It was a great moment.
Yeah, I have the first 2 hardcovers, like the big ones. I got them free at that book expo that we went to, Peter.
Oh, right.
But I kept this first volume 1 trade because I was like, I can't get rid of that.
Yeah.
It's got the Brian Deemer collection on it.
Yeah. I mean, he's worth millions of dollars now. It's $1 million signature.
What was it? Eat me, Jackass.
Yeah.
You should tag Robert Kirkman, see if he remembers. If you post it. Well, the other issue we read, Spider-Man 1.
Yep.
Todd McFarlane.
We. I did not. I don't have it. I never got it.
All right.
So, but I do have a couple quick questions. When did this come out? What was the time frame?
Oh,
Spider-Man
92.
No,
yeah, 90. Earlier than that, because 92 was when Spawn came out, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 90.
Oh, 90. Okay.
I just didn't look it up. I never read it. But the one thing I can remember about McFarlane, when I was going to get my back issues of, speaking of All-Star Squadron, Shane,
yeah,
I was getting to the point where, why can't I find issue 47 for cheap? Well, it's because it's almost his first DC work. And it's like, oh, crap. And it was just like the origin of Dr. Fate. It's like, I don't have the issue. I don't care about McFarlane. I just want to get the back issue for my collection. So that's...
June of 1990.
Wow.
Was when it was released.
Yep. So I know there was a lot of hype around the issue with poly bags, different covers, but I never read it.
Oh my God, there's like 1,000 different covers.
Yeah. So that's about all I really do know about that.
Well, it's interesting in the letter. Do you guys have the letter page, the text page that he wrote in the back, or are you reading it in a trade? Because I had the trade once, but
I have it on the app at the moment.
Oh, so they may not have
it.
So when you read the
they don't.
The text page in the back, like, it's McFarlane, right? So he's writing. The first thing he even says is, "I'm one of those people that if I get a new number 1, I hate when there's not like something in the back, explaining about the issue or whatever." So he just really lays it out that when he was doing work with Peter David and David Michelinie and Roy Thomas, he was starting to feel like, I want to write. I don't want to just write for someone else. I want to do my own thing. If I'm going to draw the book, I also want to write it. And he even freely admits, he's like, I don't know if I'm good. I just wanted, like, give me some Z-list character that I can learn from, that I can just make a mess of and no one will care. And then that's when they were like, well, we do want to do a 5th Spider-Man book. And he was like, really? You're going to take that chance? And I was like, okay, But he also says that he wanted it to be more artistic driven. It's everything they always say the Image books are, right? Like they're more about the art than the story. So he freely admits, like, I'm learning on the go. If you're going to write in and you tell me you like something, tell me why. If you don't like it, tell me why, because I want to learn. But I kind of dug that he did that, because it does make you look at it and go, yeah, he wanted to write a book that he could shine artistically on. And I think that's what this first issue is. I think it's...
I would agree with that.
Yeah. You're like, this is, if you want a pure Todd McFarlane, here you go.
Yeah.
And I quite enjoyed it. after not reading it for decades.
Oh yeah. Well, it was a big thing back then just because it was Todd McFarlane and it was on Spider-Man. And his art was so successful in Amazing Spider-Man, but then to just, oh my God, he's writing it too. It served its purpose and I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed this series for a long, long time before I dropped it.
Yeah, because he would leave around issue 16, I think it is.
Yeah, and I kept going for a long while after that.
Yeah, that's when he went over to Image. You can see it reads like a Batman book, especially in the opening. It feels like he's just talking about Gotham City.
Yeah.
It reads like a later Spawn book, right? There's just some of the way that he writes. You're like, this is exactly what the first issue of Spawn kind of felt like, you know?
And I'm not saying his characters that he drew in here and drew in Spawn look alike, but you can tell who's drawing them.
Yes.
I mean, his artwork is very distinctive,
right?
But it fits in the world that he's drawing.
Yeah. I love the vertical panels. And he talked about he wanted to use a villain that nobody was really using at the time. And when they came across Lizard,
yeah,
he was like, good, I get to do a classic Spider-Man villain in my style, right? Where the jacket is 5 miles too long, you know, and he has a hole in his pants at the knee. But the way, like, if you folded all that material back on, it doesn't make sense that it's just a little hole, right? It looks like it would wrap around. It's like, but that's okay because it's exaggerated. It works.
Well, and you know, the thing that you just can't, it's really hard for people to understand, like if you were a new reader coming on now, these comics were so radically different from 99% of other comics on the market at the time. And so well, maybe not by this time, but when Spider-Man 298 came out, that was just like shocking, right?
Yeah.
And same with New Mutants and the same with a few other things. It was like, oh my God, it was so exciting. So now, I mean, I still think the art looks great, but I could see people being like, oh, that's me, it's fine. It's nothing that special, right?
Yeah.
But in 1990, it was pretty special.
Yeah.
You know? And the whole polybagged issue 1 with all the different cards in it. So you had to buy like 5 versions or something to get them all or whatever it was. It was like, you know, and $1.75 a pop, you know, and I was like, geez, we spent a lot of money on these comics.
And like you say, you have panels that are like that. And as you go through, it's action-packed, it's filled. And then you get like this breather, this break, nice vertical panels, everything kind of in line in progression of the story. But it just lets you catch your breath before the next, which is a Lizard page where he's gone crazy. It's very well planned out, well drawn, dynamic.
What's so interesting is that he uses there's a lot of empty space, right? Like these panels don't go to the edge of the page. You clearly are looking at a lot of the just original art page on the back and the panels are on top. Yet I don't feel like it's shortchanged at all because what's in the panels, there's a lot of energy, even if it's not your favorite style. Those later pages where it's just Spider-Man sort of swinging and then heading, it's like the last 3 or 4 pages. Each page looks like McFarlane's like, yeah, I could sell every page of this because each one is still telling a story or partly, you know, because you're really in the head of Spider-Man or you're in the head of the narrator and you feel like Spider-Man and Lizard are like getting closer and closer. One is high, one is low. And again, he's treating it like an art book. Those last couple pages are like, here you go. I'm going to sell these 3 pages. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. You get to that last page. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh, and you mentioned Cell. I know this is what you were thinking about, Peter, but oh my God, Todd McFarlane artwork, original artwork, sky high.
Wow.
The prices.
I can't even imagine.
Unbelievable.
Can you give me an example, Pants?
Well, for instance, this is slightly off topic. The cover he did where he's has Spider-Man like pushing, like down the Hulk. With his arm up like that, I think went for over $400,000.
Jesus! Wow,
that was a little while ago, but yeah, no, his artwork is generally just very sought after, very expensive.
Well, I think some Sons of like billionaires, like oil people from Europe or the Balkans or whatever, and it's like they can they're 30-year-old dudes who have basically unlimited checkbooks, and so they can just like, oh, I'll buy some comic book artwork, and they're like, I like Spider-Man, I'll buy that Todd McFarlane cover, and it's like you just spend however much it takes, just outbid everybody, doesn't matter. Now I don't know who bought the Spider-Man cover, but as an example, like it's hard for us to ever be like, oh, I'll save up and buy a Todd McFarlane page when there's some billionaire son who's like, yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
Some Russian dude who got unlimited funds. Yeah.
And most of the time they do it to put their money into an object that they, then can flip. It's not even about the artwork.
Well, I've heard that there's one person in particular who's spending way too much money on pages because they'll never be worth that much because he's got more money and he just wants stuff. So he just bids stupid amounts of money, which then messes with the whole market. Sure. And then everybody sort of gets screwed in the process. It's like a weird thing that happens. I don't know. A few people get very rich and everybody else loses. Right?
Sure. Right. Because it happens in like the art world in general, whenever they like, not even comics, they're like, oh yeah, of course I'm going to buy that. Well, they don't have a collection. They just want to invest their money in something that they know later on. They're like, okay, now I can get that money back again or flip it to something else or whatever. So anyway, yeah, it's for not the execution and not the craft, but for the energy of the story, I actually like Spider-Man 1 more than the Daredevil issue because there was something, it's so derivative. Like, Bryan, we were reading the Walt Simonson Thor stuff with all the doom. Right, it's all over here. And I know what happens because I've read this storyline before. But it was fun to try to figure out, just like in the Daredevil one, could I figure out who the big bad is? And I think this one has a few more clues than the Daredevil issue, because if you look at like the background of whoever that mystery person is, trying to call the lizard and all this, like there's little things I'm like, or like when the lizard kills the rat, and another name for rat is vermin. And if you think of a previous Spider-Man story with a character named like you can kind of make some connections, right? I love the Stan Lee adjectives early on, where it's like Spider-Man extraordinary, his powers advantageous. It's like Todd McFarlane's just like, I'm gonna write like Frank Miller, I'm gonna write like Stan Lee, I'm gonna write like Simonson because those are the greats. I don't know how to write. I'll just mimic them for now until I figure it out. Okay. I kind of dug it. I was in it.
I think my favorite page out of this whole book is 19, where it's one of those last pages you're talking about, Peter, where Spider-Man's the top panel. He's coming kind of at you. There's a small midsection where it's focused on his eyes and then a side view of him leaping to the right.
Yeah.
That side view though, Shane, I looked at that like his left leg is so ridiculously big. It's like, oh man, you missed the mark. I'm gonna see if I can show this on the. Pants. Look at that bottom panel. It's ridiculous. Like I'm all for the exaggeration, but that was just a bad panel, like a bad leg in that panel, right?
Well, even the way the top panel, even the way he's sort of hunkering between his legs, like his knees are way past his ears practically. Like it's just.
Yeah, but that's like a Spider-Man thing. Like I'm okay with that.
I'm all for it.
That one leg was like, ooh.
Right. Yeah. Right. But if it was Greg Land's artwork, you would kind of go, which porno did he pull that from? That the guy's legs are all the way behind his ears, like, come on. Whereas McFarlane, it's expression, and it's like, look at the next page. The foot is right at your face, and his calf is at his head. Like it's like, what's going on? It works though. I was in it. This is another one. I was like, crap. Now I got to read the other four.
But again, this one still holds up.
Yeah. I think you're, like Bryan, you're right. You gotta put it in the context. It's not going to be your favorite Spider-Man story. It's not even the best drawn Spider-Man story. There's just the energy of the era makes up for the misgivings. And these were people that were learning on the fly, and Marvel and DC were giving them jobs, and those books were selling.
They were selling incredible amounts. I mean, I worked at no, I didn't work at the comic store yet in 1990, but like, I mean, the hype was insane.
Yeah.
We were all in it. And like, I don't know how old McFarlane was in 1990, but he was probably maybe 30, 20, late 20s, and to be commanding the highest selling book ever at that point or whatever, and it's just like, oh my God, of course he's gonna get to do whatever the hell he wants. It's so cool.
He was born in March of 1961.
Yeah, so he's 29 years old.
Yeah,
right? Just that's awesome.
And clearly he's hitting things like, even on the front cover, Legend of the Iraq Knight. And Spider-Man was never called the Iraq Knight, right? So he's clearly doing a Batman thing there. Even when Spider-Man's going up against that criminal in the beginning, he's like, come on, punk. Again, that's a Batman thing. It's a Frank Miller Batman thing. Because then, even though I actually like that, I like that panel where he looks a little scary and he's all encased in webs. But then McFarlane quickly returns him to, the jovial, joking Peter Parker. I was like, I would have dug that little more menacing Spider-Man, because he's a powerful person. He's a powerful superhero. Like, you don't want to get on his bad side. So, the one story bit that I liked, that I want to see if it plays out in the remaining chapters, because I don't remember, when he's kind of bragging to MJ about what did that criminal think was going to happen when he goes up against Spider-Man? Of course, it's like, when do they learn? I've been Spider-Man for a number of years. When are these criminals going to learn? So, and even she's like, okay, he's sort of full of himself, and I'm going to tickle him and bring him down. I wondered if some of that bragging gets thrown in his face in the next couple issues, but I can't remember what happens. I
don't remember what happens that close.
Yeah, like if he goes up against Lizard, but suddenly Lizard is a very different Lizard, and he's like, oh, it's just Lizard, I can take care of this. And I don't remember the next chapters, if maybe he gets his ass handed to him and is like, oh, shit.
And that's par for the course for Peter. I mean, it's at times his arrogance that is his downfall.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly how he started.
So I would give that into a plus for McFarlane's writing if he follows up on that. I just don't remember. So I'm going to have to finish it and find out. Yeah, that was fun reading those two.
Yeah.
Very similar in many ways.
I love that these comics are on this app. And and I have the Gigundo iPad, so it's actually larger than the comic.
Oh.
I mean, look how it's huge, right?
Yeah.
This is the way to read comics, man. I'm telling you,
just a regular sized iPad.
This is a really nice experience. I do wish that they went one level further and gave you the letters pages and stuff and the ads and everything. I wish it was the full comic and you could just flip through it. But
I'll even, as much as I'd love to see the ads, I'd sacrifice that just to get the letters.
It's just a little one.
Yeah. But even for me and my failing eyes as I get old, turning it sideways and then just the little bit of scrolling up at times helps me. But if this one dies, I may have to go bigger like that, because it would just be easier.
Get the big. It's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I saw that the Byrne She-Hulk run is on the app. You can read all the issues. I know Clara's going to want to just read them all now because she's so into the show. So,
do you want to read? Should we put She-Hulk 1 on our list?
Well, I'll read it
next time.
Yeah, we can. I've never read that. I read the Dan Slott stuff, but I never read the Byrne stuff.
I kind of like let's just read first issues of things and then never finish.
And then never go back. Yeah.
I was thinking about suggesting that for the first JSA issue with Black Adam coming up too.
Was he in that first? Yeah.
No, I don't think he was, but because I know Bryan liked that JSA run and I loved it. I just thought it'd be fun first issue to read.
Yeah, we'll keep track of a whole bunch of stuff, and Pants will just have to scurry around his collection to find the issues.
Oh, jeez!
You should do a time lapse video, Pants. Like put your phone up in the corner and just turn it on, and it's and then you can play the Benny Hill music.
I was just thinking the Benny Hill music. That's what I was going to say.
Yakety sax. Called
that's
Yakety
awesome.
Sax.
Yakety sax.
Oh. Oh,
Vance,
how
you
do
don't have
Funny,
the
opening this
apps?
box, opening that box, pushing this,
No, I don't have the app.
watching a TV show for half an hour and then going back.
Oh,
I'm telling
But
you that's not making fun of you. That would be gold.
yeah,
I
that
know,
would.
I would
yeah.
love to see that.
But going through those back issues, trying to find Daredevil #1, I found so many more things. Oh, I got to read that now. I got to read again. Like I said, it was more of a I need to do that. So I sort of like stopped trying to organize as much as I did trying to find things.
What was the most interesting thing you wanted to read after you found it, looking through all those just to get to the Daredevil?
Well, I realized I only have the Absolute Sandman Volume 1, which only goes up to issue 20. So I found most of the other Sandman back issues I haven't fully read. I think apparently I'm missing a few in the very early 20s, but I might have a trade around here somewhere. But I don't know how much further I've read, if I've read Seasons of Mists. So it's like, okay, I really need, I don't need, but I really should read Sandman, for goodness sake.
Yeah, I should too. I never finished it. I'd have to go back to the show archives to see how far I went, because that's kind of where I stopped, was as far as we covered it in the show for a while.
I did also find some DC Comics Presents. Like I started putting those aside. It's like, okay, got that. But again, it was a rabbit hole. It's like, okay, I gotta stop.
Why do you gotta stop? Why don't you want to go back into read it?
My focus has not been on comics for so long. It's been on, like I said, classic TV and all this stuff. And it's like,
That's okay.
I don't need something else to draw me away. But I do want to read this. But again, I can't die until I read my comics and watch my TV show. So I got to live to be like 1,000.
You got to do what I've been doing when I read, because I'm also trying to, like you guys have said before, I'm trying to sell my 35 plus long box collection. You know,
Oh my God.
when I read a comic, a physical comic from my collection, I put that into a whole other box. So I'm, you know, I only have 2 long boxes of read comics from my collection. Now, that's not to say I haven't read others in my collection, but currently when I started to do this, I think last year, if I read a physical comic, it goes into those 2 long boxes. So I'm moving, and that means those I can sell, because I don't want to put it back in my collection, because then it's like tempting to read it again.
No. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I just have space issues. Well, you saw I sort of like got myself into a corner when I was going with my boxes. Like, I can't. Where am I going to go? I can't. If this collapses, I'm going to be dead. You know, it's like, you know, I got to have my phone with me so I can call out.
Just take one of your long boxes, just dump it, and then you have a whole empty long box. And when you read, just start putting them in there. And then you can alphabetize while you're reading, and then your organization will be.
These are all good plans, but you're looking at a very, very lazy man.
Pants, I know what you mean, though. You start looking for something, you get down a rabbit hole, and all of a sudden I'm stuck in the middle of a room that I can't get out of, going,
exactly.
Crap, I got to clean this up now by tomorrow, because I got to work here.
I got to go pee now all of a sudden. Sorry. Enough about my existence.
That's hysterical.
What's the name of the DC app? The comics app?
DC Universe Infinite? It started off as being like 70 something a year, but
it had some comics, all the TV shows,
right at that time,
forums, contests, a shop. Then when HBO Max came along, they broke off all the shows onto there and just made it a comics only app.
Right. And I think originally, because I paid maybe 50 something the first year.
Yeah.
And it's quoted as being, I think, 70 some, but they only ever charged me 60 some a year. So.
And I think that's sort of possibly grandfathered in from
maybe
being original early member kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure that's what I'm at too. And I mean, I signed up with one of those bundled package deals when they first offered it.
And it only takes you, you read 5 comics a month and you paid for it probably?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, even I cut back on buying so many comics in general. I don't buy any Marvel comics anymore. Maybe once or twice a year, if that, because I just wait for it to come on the app. Right. DC stuff, I still get Justice League books or certain things when they come out, but for the most part, it's just what I read on the app. It's just worth it.
So worth it.
And it's worth it for everything new that's coming out and everything that's archived that I will never own, that I'm never going to seek out to own. I don't want to own. I just want to read it.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah, and I was buying a couple of years ago when I was still like getting and reading comics regularly. I was like, I got back on like the monthly train. I stopped waiting for trade. I'm like, I'm reading comics. Like, it feels nice, right? And now I got these stacks of comics, and I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with these? Like, they're not worth anything. I don't want to save them for 30 years till they're worth something.
Right.
But I don't want to throw them away. I want to give them to somebody who wants to read them. But who the hell do I know that wants to read them? And it's like, now I just got stacks of comics laying around. So I just stopped buying. I'm like, that's why I got the Marvel app again, because I got like a stupid deal, like a whole year for $60, $5 a month. That's one comic or whatever. It's fine, right?
Yep.
So yeah, but then I forget to read because they don't come to my door every month, and I don't go, ooh, comics, right? So it's like, oh, maybe I should be getting about,
No, don't go back in it.
Yeah, I've been in a bad spell the last 6 months about reading on the app like I had been before. So I gotta find a way. I was doing it at least one issue of something a day for DC and Marvel. And I was doing really good for like 2 years or 2.5 years. And then I fell off the bandwagon. And now I haven't done it unless we talk about it in something like this. I'm like, oh, I'll look it up on the app.
Are we talked out? Topic
2 hours.
Out?
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, that's probably enough. Everybody's getting tired of hearing us. We're going to wear out our welcome.
Yeah. I got a few comments I posted our picture from the last time on Instagram, and people were like, oh my God, the classics. Randy Genti was like, flashback.
Oh, wow, man. I haven't heard his name for a long time.
We're old.
Wait, I'll find one of the topics or one of the things. Oh, wait, Pants. Or maybe Shane. Judy Tenuta died.
What?
Yeah, I just saw that.
Oh, you know her?
Oh, yeah.
No,
I know
I wasn't
crazy comedian with the talk like that.
Yeah.
Oh, and I did tweet out that picture of the autograph, Bryan.
Cool.
That's terrible. Not the picture, but
I love Judy Tenuta.
Yeah,
she was so funny. She sang that song about the Pope. So this is from this is let me see if I have a name. Vito on Instagram. You guys are the best at just having a conversation and making us feel like we're in the room. Brought tears to my eyes when you mentioned Jamie and what he has missed out on. Keep them coming. I'll be listening.
Oh gosh, Peter. God, speaking of that, I stumbled on your post of, was it episode 300 that you recently posted about the anniversary? Mm-hmm. And I went down that rabbit hole and listened to that episode. That was great.
Yeah, the anniversary episodes are fun to listen to.
Yeah. But then I'm thinking, man, I got to go back and I want to reread a little bit of Strangers and then re-listen to the episodes we did with Jamie and Terry Moore. And God, that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
I just put that up. That was 15 years ago, October 2007. Yeah. I was like, what was going on 15 years ago? Yeah, October the first one.
How has all this shit been so long ago?
Yeah, because it doesn't feel that long ago.
No.
I love there's one picture in my head. We're sitting in Bryan in your house when we're in the recording thing, and Jamie's close to the door and he's sitting there with his arms folded, as he did sometimes, with this big old satisfying grin because we're all swooning over Strangers in Paradise. And he's like, yep, see, I knew it. I told you.
Here, Pants. So this is from Oversized Hardcore Collector. Loving that the originals are back. Hearing that ep with you guys and Pants really brought a tear to my eye and a smile to my face. Oh. So, listening to some of the episodes we've been doing, Bryan brought up, speaking of Quesada, brought up Sword of Azrael, which I've actually never read.
Oh. I see that from where I'm sitting. I can literally see that in the first issue of one of these boxes over. I can see it. I see it.
So if you want to read that,
I'll read that out. I'll write that too. I might read.
I have those issues readily available, actually.
I might just go read the whole 4. It's only 4 issues, right? I just want to read it because I've never read it. I want to read the Quesada stuff. You know,
I don't know if I have those issues anymore. I might have gotten rid of those.
They might be on the app.
Hopefully they're on the app.
Look, there it is. Pants is holding it.
Oh, that's awesome.
I got it.
That took no time at all.
That took no time at all. Penny broke up a sweat.
That was a flash move.
So I think it. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. I also have to ask myself, how what happened? I was out of podcasting for like 4 years, and all of a sudden I'm back in. What did I miss? How did this happen? How did I get tricked into this? I was sitting here just getting fat watching TV, and all of a sudden I'm back into podcast. What happened? Who did this?
Assignments and homework.
Yeah, what the hell? I thought I was done with this stuff.
You know what we should do? Hey, let's. In all seriousness, we're reading these issue 1s of comics. We should watch some episode 1s of some TV shows that you recommend, Pants. I mean, if they're like readily available on streaming or whatever.
Sure. I can do that.
I'm totally down to watch an episode of a show or something, right?
Are we losing Shane connection?
I think Shane froze. He heard me say TV shows, and he's like, "I'm out.
Oh no,
done." You know, my internet.
There it is. Back again.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
That's weird.
Let me think about that. And
wait. Does everybody have access to watch Moonlighting?
I have DVDs of the first 3 seasons.
I have the first season, I think. Yeah.
Pants, do you have?
No, I got nothing. I could probably hunt for it on the interwebs, but
we should watch the first episode of that.
I would love that.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I love that show.
Okay, that's a good start.
All right.
Well, no, Pants, let's do, because I don't know anything about the era of television you watch, Pants. What?
I don't know it like Pants knows it, but I've dabbled in it. My mom watched a lot of that stuff, so I've probably watched a lot of episodes that Pants has watched.
I mean, I can. Let's see. I'm just going through the list here of some things that I think might be good. Alfred Hitchcock Presents is a possibility because the first episode is available for free on Peacock, which I believe is still a free service. Plus, it was directed by Hitchcock.
Well, you can't pay for it.
Right. That's a possibility of a first episode.
There's a free side.
I mean, if I think of something else, I mean, that's only 25 minutes long.
And depending on when we record next, I'm sure we could all talk about Werewolf by Night.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
I'll see it by this time tomorrow. I mean, it drops in a couple hours, you know.
Yeah.
Sure.
I keep the list, so I'll send it out to everybody.
Thought I was out, and they pulled me back in again. Jesus Christ.